G'day everyone and welcome back to the Big Bros podcast. My name is Jeremy. Welcome if it's your first time joining us on the show. I'm joined by my lovely friend and co-host Ilan. How are we, mate?
I am fantastic. I received my 8 hours of sleep. I've had my morning coffee. I am ready to go. How are you, mate?
I'm well, mate. That's a recipe for success. So let's dive into it because today we're talking all about keeping good momentum going into 2025, going into the end of 2024. We are in the final quarter. It's the fourth quarter of the year, and we've got about 20-25% left of the year. So we want to keep that momentum going into the end of the year. Finish strong, and if you're listening and you feel like you've had a really good year so far, this episode will hopefully give you some tips and just reassurance about how to keep that energy going. And if you're on the other end and you feel like, I felt like the last few months I've been a bit lousy, well, even more so, hopefully this gives you a little bit more reinvigoration as to how you can get yourself back up to where you want to be. So on that note, Ilan, what is one thing that you can do to keep that momentum going into the end of the year?
I would write down all the goals that you've set out from the start of the year, the personal goals, and see which ones you've marked off. Perhaps you might be a little bit harsh on yourself and you might have only knocked off one and you've struggled to attain the other goals. Now, it might be very easy to scrap those other goals and be like, okay, I'm going to worry about that in 2025. That'll be my New Year's resolution. Perhaps it would be better to revisit some of the goals you haven't attained and lower its magnitude. What I mean by that is you're not getting rid of the goal, but you're making it more attainable, micro chunking it, because it's better to still have a shot at trying to achieve that micro goal rather than scrapping it all away and then being like, you know what, I'm going to revisit this goal next year. I think if you've achieved some of your main goals and there's still some other things you haven't achieved but you'd still like to, don't fret too much. You can simply just make it more tangible, make it more micro-sizable and go from there. What do you think?
Well, we often think about New Year's resolutions as, 1st of January, we need to have those goals in place to set us up for the year. Who says you can't fucking start having that now, And if anything, it'll hold you in good stead going into the next year. So absolutely massively advocative of that. On that note, next one, I reckon for me, one thing that I've been doing for myself is really trying to up my cardio game going into summer. I've been a lazy slob this year when it comes to trying to get my legs moving. I, still get my 5 gym sessions of training done a week, resistance training. I don't move a limb though when it comes to cardio. So that's something that I'm trying to do more of now. Why? Because I just want to feel a little bit fitter within myself going into the summer months. You're going to have the rig out on show a little bit more around the beach. If you're going to maybe a music festival or something as well. And naturally just want to feel a little bit more confident in my body and how I look. So shedding a little bit of fluff off, that is the goal. And I feel like I'm just using cardio a little bit more as a tool for that. And when I talk about cardio, I'm not talking about burning myself out stupid with HIIT workouts, with 45-minute BFT workouts going into another 45 minutes of F45, going into another 45 minutes of Pilates. That's not what I'm talking about, but simply just choosing something that you enjoy. And for me, that is going for a kick of the football with my mates. And that can be, for 45 minutes to an hour, just a nice little burst, kicking a football around. And I think sport is a great tool to use for cardio activity because it takes your mind away from the activity of cardio itself. You're just doing the sport and enjoying the involvement of that. And you're getting a good little, run around as well at the same time. So for me, it's that along with just walking. And I say walking because, although some might find it boring and monotonous, for me, I just want to conserve as much energy for my gym sessions, holding on to some muscle mass. And with running, I find that I can get injuries a fair bit easier and it takes a lot of energy more so away from those gym sessions as opposed to walking. So for me, it's walking and it's just having a kick of the pill. And that's what I'm doing going in towards the end of the year, keeping that momentum up with fitness and trying to up it a little bit more.
Love that. Next tip, attend to your personal admin items, work and health. I'll start with the health. Make sure you book in a dentist appointment if you haven't seen one for the last year. Maybe go to your ortho if you haven't been wearing your retainer. Book those appointments in now before the holiday season, because chances are everyone's going to be having the exact same idea before they go on their holidays. I know I need to book an appointment in with my dentist, with my ortho. Haven't worn my retainer in a couple of years, so
that might be out the gate.
That might be out the gate, truthfully. Another one is, get that blood pressure monitored. Just making sure your blood pressure's in the healthy range. Get your blood tests done, I reckon, as well. I'm no endocrinologist, but I don't think it takes a genius to understand the role that certain hormones play in the human body, especially for males. Testosterone, that is especially. So getting those things sorted is very, very crucial, I believe. And just monitoring them over time is great, because we can go a while before we kind of look at them and kind of monitor them. But I think if we make a habit of reviewing those sort of things once a year, once every 6 months, you set yourself up well for health, and you can monitor if anything does change. Another thing, more admin wise, is attend to your resume. Now, it's good, just like with the health stuff, to attend to it once every 6 months. And when things are quiet specifically, that's when it's a great time to attend to your resume. Because let's say there's a job application and you need to submit your documents. That's an excellent opportunity for you to have everything ready. But when it's quiet, just attend to those things. Revisit some of the skills you've learned. Maybe you've had a new job. Maybe you volunteered somewhere else. Maybe you've got more soft skills. Maybe you've got more actual skills. So definitely revisit your personal work admin stuff side of things and look at that resume and update it.
Again, something that people typically do at the start of the new year. So doing those things can hold you in good stead going into that, and also serving as a nice reflective way to reflect on what you've done so far this year. So love that, mate. Again, for me, going back onto the health and fitness side of things, trying to just eat more whole foods. And it's one that's quite buzzed up at the moment, getting that avocado, beef, mince and eggs on your plate. But
don't forget the sweet potato.
But honestly, look, people are buzzing it up because it fucking works. And that's what I've been noticing within myself. I feel like I've got more energy, I'm more alert, I'm more vibrant. And that's something that I want to go and keep up with going into summer, because in summer, I feel like we tend to let ourselves go at times a little bit when it comes to, the excess of partying, the excess of eating around Christmas time. And, you've got like festivities, you've got work functions. So there's more drinks and there's more food. And that's all well and good. We love that. But I feel like if I can hold myself in good stead now with eating more whole foods, getting more vegetables on my plate, just anything with more color on the plate, that's going to make me feel better going into the summer months, where, I can maybe give myself that leeway to let myself go a little bit more within reason. And that ties into alcohol as well. Lots of partying coming up, and that's okay. I feel like it's all within good reason. We've got music festivals if you're into that. And again, you've got your work festivities like I've mentioned. So alcohol is going to be a key factor. But with that, I feel like being responsible about your intake is imperative. And this isn't a matter of, having 8 drinks instead of having 25 drinks on one night. This is more so about choosing your battles, choosing the functions, choosing the activities as to when you decide to drink alcohol and when you decide to maybe let things go off and not really indulge in that behavior as much, because you can't always be drinking, because it's not, if you're someone that has other goals that you want to set in place and that you want to achieve, with those goals being work orientated, fitness orientated, and just feeling generally good about yourself, alcohol is going to be the first thing that affects that and damages that. It's a toxin, and it's something that, we need to be accountable to and be responsible with. So pick your battles. I know I certainly do. Not every Saturday night do you have to drink to an excess. If you want to have a beer or two, by all means, I don't think that's going to really damage you the next day. But knowing your limits, and, driving to the venue can be a really good way to do that. Instead of taking an Uber where your mates will egg you on and say, but you Ubered, you can get away with having a few more. It's fine. You're here now. If you drive to a drinks venue, if you're meeting up with people for drinks, you're already holding yourself accountable. So it's very fucking basic. It's a little hack, but it's a hack that definitely will serve you with your goals coming into the silly season with alcohol.
Stop putting off important conversations. That is my next tip. We are, as you said, 75% through the year. And there are a lot of people out there who have gone the 75% of this year without addressing an important conversation. Now, that important conversation could be with a spouse, with a partner, with a friend, with a colleague, with a roommate, with a family member, with a friend, whomever it can be. However, now is the perfect time. And the reason it's now is the perfect time is because you don't want to get to next year. And you don't want to keep revisiting and ruminating on a conversation that hasn't happened yet. Truthfully, there are a lot of people out there who might be wanting a new salary or an upgrade or a promotion of some form, some sort of increase. And that conversation with their boss, that potential conversation where they might be rejected, is stewing at them. Perhaps there's people in relationships who want to leave and they're there because they're comfortable and not happy. And they're in that beta region paradox as we discuss. Maybe there's people, friends who have screwed you over and you don't have the courage at the moment to chat to them and talk to them about what's on your mind. Having that conversation with them isn't necessarily to inform them as much as it is to almost relieve you of you having to ruminate on the same thing. Stop putting off important conversations because the magnitude of it will only increase the longer you keep it inside of you.
Do you feel like you've held grudges in the past, which is why you are now using this as a key driving force to nip this in the bud?
100%. I think when I was younger, especially, I would love holding grudges.
Why?
I don't know. I think
that seems a bit toxic, mate.
I think it was a little bit toxic, but I think it was just part of my maturity. And I'm speaking more maybe when I was 19, 20 years old. I won't get too personal, but I think just the truth of it was easier to hold on to a grudge because I felt like I was protecting my ego. And that's actually a good segue into my next point, which is if you want to finish off the year strong and you want to grow as a person, do activities that bruise your ego. For me, that's been Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu because for me, I rock up and more times than not, I'm going to get my ass handed to me by someone who's done the sport for much longer, who might be more athletically inclined. And knowing that, I'm voluntarily going somewhere where I'm going to be physically dominated by someone while still picking up the necessary skills.
So that sounds good.
It's great. It's great for the mental health. But there's something special about going into an activity where your ego is bruised and then still choosing to return to that activity.
Why?
Because it shows, first of all, it's very easy to give up in those situations because it's an uncomfortable situation. And as humans, we don't like discomfort. We don't like going to a place where we're going to be interested, some sort of discomfort is going to be introduced and where you have to kind of push through it. So that's why I love jiu-jitsu because I'm still picking up skills. It's not like it's all negative. I'm still, compared to when I started, I'm much different. I'm much calmer under pressure. I'm able to think more. I've been able to use my breath work more because, when you're getting choked out and the only thing you have is your brain to try and think clearly of how to get out of a specific position or a submission, that stuff is so important and it translates to other areas of your life. I feel like if there's a time pressure decision that I need to make, I'm way more cool. I don't panic as much. And I think activities, and it doesn't have to be specifically a sport or a martial art. You can do anything that necessarily bruises your ego. Anywhere where you seek discomfort. I see people doing rejection therapies all the time online where they go up literally to a coffee shop and say, can I have this coffee for free? For some people, that might not feel like that's insurmountable. But for others, that's massive. For other people, it might be going up to a girl they like at a bar and just striking up a conversation with them. For some, not that terrifying. For others, it is. So you pick your heart and you pick the battles that might bruise your ego because in the long run, it's going to endow more benefits onto you.
And what a way to segue again into that next point, which does link to that. And that is coming into these summer months, we are going to be in more social environments where you're going to be meeting new people. You're going to be mingling around work functions, events, music events, dinners, whatever it might be. And it's an opportunity for you to try level up yourself as a person in that domain. I mean, you've spoken really well there about, trying a new skill going into the end of the year, something that might challenge your ego a little bit more. And this is no different when it comes to socializing and communicating. If you're typically someone that is quite introverted, to themselves, reserved, fucking terrified at the fact of, talking to someone new and striking up a conversation, now is the perfect time to do it, because you've got nothing to lose. And going into the new year, if you're able to already start instilling these habits into yourself now, by the time the start of 2025 comes along, one, you're going to feel less pressured within yourself to become that person that you dream of becoming, because you've already started putting in the reps and essentially doing the preseason for 2025. And two, you've got the world at your feet in the summer months, because there are so many opportunities presented to you. So it's not like being in June, July, it's cold, people are typically more at home, and there's not as much socializing. You've got so many opportunities to do that now. So why not get started? Why not put yourself in those uncomfortable situations, those positions that you're not used to, and see where it goes? It'll only teach you more about yourself going into 2025, and you're essentially tackling that preseason early.
Love it. Get your winter shopping done now, I reckon, too. Think some things might be on sale, and we're all going into summer, so everyone's shopping for some jorts, some t-shirts, some nice linen shirts, but
good call.
Perhaps try and restock your winter wardrobe before it gets cold for next year. So maybe do your summer shopping in winter and your winter shopping in summer. I think that's a nice, simple tip.
Like that one. Definitely. Massive advocate for that. One that I also want to go down, which is more so on the line of productivity, which I can definitely speak to. And I know, as a collective, we can, with our podcast, with our line of work. And that is, if you're doing something that is, important to you and you're very passionate about, but you're not seeing those immediate results, you're not seeing the results that you've hoped to see instantly, you're not getting that instant gratification, just keep fucking going. Just keep doing it, because there's no option other than just continuing with it. It's either you continue or you give up. And if you give up, well, the road ends there, right? You can't see any more growth. But if you keep going, even if it's extremely incremental, even if there's a time period where it's stagnant, that is okay. And why is it okay? Because even if you're not seeing those numbers on the paper, you're not seeing those dollar signs light up just yet, you are leveling up as a person. You are learning so much about yourself as a person. You are teaching yourself perseverance. You're teaching yourself resilience. You're teaching yourself how to be mentally strong in a way that you weren't before. And if you can keep that up going into the end of the year, by the time the new year comes around, and we keep stressing that, but you will feel much more reinvigorated as a person, because you've already been putting in the reps at that, in that region beta zone, in that zone where it's easy to give up, it's easy to walk away. Whereas, start of the year 2025, that's often the time period where we typically view as, let's go. This is the now time period. This is the period where I need to get started. But if you find yourself in that zone of stagnation right now, when you're chipping away at a goal, just keep going. Push through these months, believe in yourself, trust in yourself. It's something you and I continue to tell ourselves, because, there are many times where we say, whilst we're so proud of ourselves with how far we've come, nearly being 2 years into this, obviously you would like to see more growth than what you anticipated originally. But if you keep going and keep reminding yourself that what you're doing is for a greater purpose and you're enjoying it as well, then it's only a matter of when. And we just know that giving up is never an option. So don't give up, keep going, keep that momentum strong.
I love it. If you're struggling to develop a routine, let's get really, really basic on what you can control right now. And I think your sleep is the main thing. My thesis last year involved looking at sleep timing, so the time in which you go to bed and the time in which you wake up. And oftentimes as a society, we overemphasize sleep duration, so how long you sleep. So if you're sleeping 8 hours, but going to sleep at very sporadic times and waking up at sporadic times, but still maintaining 8 hours of sleep, it's not the worst, but it's better to maintain some sort of habitual routine. If you're struggling with anything, at least try and get on top of the time you go to bed and the time you wake up, because that will set the momentum for the day, because you'll have more predictability within your days. Because if you know that you're not deviating too much in the times you go to sleep and the times that you wake up, you will know how to predict your weeks ahead. It'll be easier for you to time block. It'll be easier for you to know which activities you can fit in through the week, and you'll know what time of the day you'll be most alert. That's the key thing that differentiates someone who's able to stick to a routine versus someone who's not. It's them recognizing when are they the most productive, when are they the most lethargic, when are they the most relaxed, and when are they the most irritable. And getting on top of your sleep timing is really, really, really important, because it sets in motion all these things. You get your circadian rhythm aligned. You're able to, in a way, synchronize your body clock, so you're awake when the sun's out and you go to bed not long after the sun goes down, especially in the summer months when it is daylight for most of the day.
Do you reckon it's more important to focus on the time you go to sleep or the time you wake up? If you had to choose one.
If I had to choose one, it would be the time you wake up initially, because that can set in motion the time you can go to bed in the evening. It's much harder to initiate sleep. It's much easier to choose when you want to wake up. Obviously, it might be uncomfortable, but if you wanted to start going to bed at 9 p.m. every night, but you're used to going to sleep at 11 p.m. or 12 a.m., it's going to be very difficult for you to wake up at 9 a.m. But if you want to start waking up at 6 a.m., and you generally wake up at 9 a.m., it's much easier for you to set an alarm clock at 6 a.m., do that for a few days, to the point where you start becoming quite exhausted throughout the day. You've got a bit of sleep fatigue. And then you gradually start pushing your bedtime by half an hour increments. So instead of going to sleep at 12, you go at 11:30, do that for a couple nights, and you go to sleep at 11, do that for a couple nights, and so forth until you reach your desired sleep initiation time.
Love that. Another quick tip is have more meals with your loved ones, because it's important with generating conversation, talking about your goals, reflective practice, and just looking out for one another, asking how your day is going. It's something that I do with my family every night pretty much, and it's something that I'm extremely lucky to be doing and grateful for, and something that I've done ever since I can remember, really. But going into these months, especially where so much is happening and there's so much going on, try get those meal times, even if it's one meal a day with loved ones or a loved one, and stop eating on your own, because it just allows you to just talk about the days together, talk about where your head's at, talk about what's going on. And it's just pleasant. It holds each other accountable to certain things, and it serves as just a nice conversation, to another opportunity to have a conversation with someone that you love, that doesn't take any real extra effort. You're not scheduling something in, really. It's you have to eat, they have to eat, so why not do it together? Something really simple, but something really effective that I've found.
I really love that. I found that I've started doing that the last few years, and I've tried to be more mindful of it, because I would usually just kind of become a hermit in my study and eat and do work.
Yeah.
And it's not mindful eating. And I think that when you're around your loved ones, you're able to do a little check-in, because it's very easy, especially when you get a bit more independence in your 20s, to almost forget about what's happening around with the people around you and those you love. And I think even a 10-minute chat whilst you're eating your lunch or dinner or even your brekkie, it's a perfect way just to check in and see that things are going all good. And
doing so, if you can, very hard today, but doing so without your phone. If you can have those meal times without being on your phone next to you, without it buzzing, once the meal is all done, by all means, you're digesting your food and you're having a scroll. But if you're eating with someone else, then do your best to not be on your phone whilst you're eating. Be mindful of the meal and have your meal together, generate some good conversation, and just enjoy it. Now, another one that I want to talk about going into the end of the year, because there is so much going on and there's so many events to keep up with, similar to the alcohol tip, but pick your battles. Choose the ones in which you want to go to. Choose the events you want to go to, because it's very easy to say yes to everything, because as humans, we experience FOMO. I know I do. And, the thought of missing out on a really funny moment with your mates, the thought of missing out on a particular music event, the thought of missing out on maybe a weekend away can eat me up at times, and it's not good. But because there is so much happening, if you were to just say yes to everything, you're ultimately going to burn yourself out. And credit to you if you are a geezer that is listening, that is able to conquer everything and feel perfectly fine. But I'm an advocate that if you are still trying to work towards particular goals that you want to achieve in these summer months, and you don't want to just write yourself off and dedicate yourself to the party, then you need to pick your battles. You need to be wise about this. It's just another opportunity where your balance will be tested, and tested for good measure. So don't say yes to everything. Be prepared to say no to stuff. It's hard. It's something that I've gotten better in. It's something that I used to really struggle at. I used to struggle at saying no to things, saying no to people, because I have said this many times, but I used to view myself as a pretty big people pleaser, one in which I think I'm better in now. But you get so much liberation and freedom within yourself when you start saying no to things that you actually don't want to really go to, but you've just been going because you feel the need to go. So get rid of those people-pleasing tendencies, pick your battles, and do the things that you truly just want to do.
My last tip is to be more kind to yourself. Stop criticizing yourself so much. We often have these big goals that we set out at the start of every year, and we may not achieve all of them, as I discussed earlier. But the fact that you've tried, the fact that you've maintained some form of discipline during the year, and the fact that you're wanting to improve yourself, it can get to a point where you set such high, relentless standards for yourself that you forget why you're doing what you're doing in the first place. So remind yourself to be kind to yourself. Give yourself time to breathe and relax and enjoy yourself, because Tony Robbins says we overestimate the things that we can achieve in 1 year, but we underestimate the things that we can achieve in 10 years. So for anyone out there who has endeavored on a big project, whether it's a business, whether it's an improvement in their sort of belief system, or anything that their heart desires, and it's taking a bit longer, as we said earlier, just keep sticking at it, because we're going to overestimate what we can achieve in a year, but we will definitely underestimate how much we can achieve in 10 years.
On that note, guys, keep that momentum going, keep trudging away, and be proud of yourselves, be kind to yourselves, and just enjoy the process. If you've enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend that you feel like can benefit from, that can benefit from this. There's a wide range of tips and tricks that we've tried to implement and are trying to implement, and hopefully you guys can relate and resonate to it as well. Happy Tuesday. Have a good week.
Bye-bye.